Thanks, guys. I'm happy you guys had me on. I'm excited to catch up with you guys. It's been way too many years. Yeah, I'm 20. Thank you. Last time you saw me, I was probably 160. Yeah, I was at 230 this morning when I weighed in. So I haven't grown. I've gotten, yeah, finally. Yeah. So sophomore year was the year I played with you guys all year on varsity. That was a good year. Junior year came back and I was kind of I played fall ball with my club team just fine, and then over the winter with my pitching coach, we were doing pull downs. Went in for one, took my crow hop, and just threw it absolutely as hard as I could, and I felt a pop in my elbow. But I was like, all right, this is our like a day before Christmas, so I was like, all right, one more day. Like after today, nothing for at least 3 weeks. So if I'm a little sore, it's fine. So I did another one and just made it probably 10 times worse. So I was out for almost all of the high school season. I got an MRI, and it was just a partial UCL tear, which obviously is the Tommy John injury. So I got MRI, saw all the doctors, and they said it's kind of up to me. Tommy John was an option, but they said it's partial tear. So we just went the rehab route, which honestly I feel like kind of ended up being not much shorter of a recovery as the surgery itself would have been. So for a little bit, I definitely regretted not just getting the surgery and making that tendon smaller. But yeah, I was kind of like, I got to a point where very early on, I was throwing pretty hard. Like, I think going into after junior year when I was healthy, I was like 86, 87. Never touched a weight room in my life. So I honestly think what happened was I got to a point where I was throwing too hard and my muscles and tendons couldn't handle it. And eventually they just popped on me. I remember that in the brace. Yeah. Yeah. So going into junior year before that injury, I was the 6'5" left-handed guy throwing sidearm. So around Thanksgiving of that year was kind of when recruiting started, and I was getting some phone calls. It was D1. I was kind of that cocky kid who was D1 or nothing. Wouldn't take any calls from a D2 or lower. It's all your coaches will say, like, doesn't matter, just go where you can play. For me, it was D1 or absolutely nothing. So I got cocky, and that's kind of another thing. That's why I never got into the weight room as that 6'5", 160 pound string bean. But I was having so much fun, dude. I was having like the peak of my career. I was on the phone with coaches all the time. After that injury, I kind of hit it for a few months, like throughout the high school season, and even into the summer. But then some of those coaches would actually come out to see me pitch, and velo was down, wasn't doing good. The worst one was one of the Michigan State coaches drove all the way down to come watch me pitch, gave up 4 runs in the first inning, and I watched him walk away after half an inning. Left, didn't hear back. So once I got to senior year, that's kind of when I just accepted that D1 wasn't really an option anymore. So I started to take the JUCO phone calls. Around, I think that was early that year as well, kind of Thanksgiving. I ended up getting my first offer from Frontier Community College, which is a JUCO in Fairfield, Illinois. It's middle of nowhere, 300 kids at the school. So I was like, all right, I kind of sat on that offer and I was about to go on a visit to Wabash Valley, where there's another JUCO down there. And if you know, I was like, they're good. And the coach somehow through the grapevine, I don't know, found out I was going on that visit. So he called me and basically said, if you go on that visit, we're taking our offer away. So I committed the Frontier on the spot on that phone call because I don't want to miss out on a full ride, which obviously, assuming we'll probably get into my college career a little later, that was definitely a very terrible decision. But yeah, senior year was slow. That was the COVID year, so I didn't get the season anyways. Didn't really get a chance to prove anything. Didn't get a chance to get on the Wall of Fame at Schaumburg, which I really wanted to do. But yeah, kind of junior and senior year just got wiped away with injuries and COVID. So after my season with you guys on varsity, that was my last time ever pitching for Schaumburg. Yeah. Yeah, once you get there, you definitely it's humbling because I did end up at a D3 for a year, and there's guys at every level. All right, I'm at a NAI currently, and opening day, the pitcher we faced was 95, 96, number one team in the nation, and it's just there are MLB level players at every level of college. So at the NAI level, there's a lot less rules. It's the only division where you can get drafted to these MLB teams, maybe get caught your first year, not play. You can go back and play in an NAI. So it's the only level that allows professionals like. But at the same time, a lot of these guys were at D1s, like the big names. They get injured, and at the D1, you're very replaceable. Everyone is. So you get one injury, they got someone coming in to take your spot, and these guys kind of just get brushed out. So, and a lot of them also were just grad transfers. They went to a 4 year Division One, graduated, and wanted to play for another year or two. So you definitely run into some grown men at the NAI level. I've got teammates that are ranging from 18 years old to 31 years old at my school. So you get some very grown men and a lot of talent at the NAI level. It's more than I thought. It was humbling when I got there. That sounds familiar. It's hard to tell for like I can talk based on the differences between the two schools I'm at, which was Benedictine, and now I'm at Westcliff. Westcliff's definitely a bit of a easier ride. We don't have tests. There's literally zero quizzes, zero tests at my college. It's all papers and presentations. So it makes it easy in that aspect. But even just the practice rules are a little different. I'm pretty sure at the NEI level, we're getting more practice time. Like in the fall, we get more hours or weeks or whatever to practice than at Benedictine. But honestly, it's not. There's not as many crazy differences as you'd think. Bouncing. I mean, I'm sure if you went from D3 to D1, it would be crazy. But at least for me, I get a little more gear at the NEI I'm at. We're a Nike sponsored school, and I've got some good connections at that school, so we get some cool gear. But honestly, yeah, the school isn't. We don't have a campus at Westcliff. We're in an office building. It's the fourth floor. There's offices above our floor, so little stuff like that. You don't really get the college experience. I would say at Westcliff because we're all off campus, all around the Irvine, kind of all those little towns in Southern California. But at Benedictine, you're on campus with everyone, and so yeah, I wouldn't. It's kind of hard to put key differences on it, other than just the experiences are a little bit different. I definitely like living off campus. It's definitely more expensive to live off campus in Southern California than it was on campus in Lyle. But you know, at our school, it's really the only people you see on campus are the athletes. We have 30 sports teams, pretty much anything you can name except for football and hockey. We have like surf, futsal. We have all the sports. So you kind of, yeah, we're the only school in the country with a futsal team. It's I think it's 5-on-5, like indoor soccer. They play, yeah, they play all their games, and they have to drive to Mexico for all their games because nobody else has teams. But yeah, we do. My roommate this year was on our esports team. We do on scholarship. But yeah, I definitely like it here because you go on campus and you're surrounded by all athletes. We're a very diverse school. Like we have athletes from any country you can think of. So I definitely have a lot more fun here just connecting with a wide variety of people versus maybe you get one or two athletes in your classes at Benedictine. But yeah, Westcliff, you can talk to anybody about anything. Yeah. Yeah, so recruiting sounded cool. The coach made it very clear that he really wanted me to go there, kind of almost promised like an SEC commitment out of me if I go there and buy in. And kind of you show up, and college coaches are not themselves when you're visiting, man. They play a character, they want you to kind of just see the good side of their school, they hide some bad things. And this is still in the heart of COVID. So I get there, and the first kind of week is obviously there's dead time. We're just moving in, so I'm kind of throwing, doing stuff on my own, and it's small. Like my apartment, I step outside, the baseball fields in my front yard. Like three, the town is it's an Amish town. Like most of the people we'd see at the grocery store were Amish. Like very like yeah, seriously in the parking lot. It's but our a day before we were supposed to start our workouts, someone went into the weight room at our school with COVID and got it shut down. They had to deep clean it. So day one, we wake up. It's a 4:30 a.m. report time to the parking lot of the school, and first thing we do is a mile run. If you couldn't do it, I think it was 6.5 minutes. If you couldn't do it in 6.5 minutes, sent you home. Wouldn't even be on the team. Yeah, done. If you weren't under that, so we do that in the parking lot. We're just running laps, and then after that, we're still in the parking lot doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, like all this stuff. We're running the warning track with tires over our head, doing like field sprints. When he blew his whistle, you full on dolphin diving into an army crawl. So like kind of just our coach was straight out of the Air Force, putting us through boot camp. And I was like, all right, I've never definitely didn't really run enough to be prepared. But anyways, that's day one. Day two, I'm throwing after the workout, and I feel that same little tension in my elbow again. little bit of a pop, definitely not as bad as the first time. And at that point, I was like, dude, I'm not going through 8 months of therapy again. So I literally called my coach before practice, just kind of told him, I don't know if I can do it. Thinking about like going home, and he's kind of like, you can tell he's a little irritated. He's like, "Are you thinking about quitting right now?" And I was like, "I don't know. Yeah, I got to talk to my family." I missed practice that day, and I call him after, and I'm like, "Coach, I'm sorry. Like, I don't have the mental ability to go through 8 months of rehab right now. Like, I just can't mentally do it." And this coach like ripped me to pieces on that phone, like mother effing me, calling me soft, like just absolutely snapped on me. And I just sit there and I took it, but he just ran into me for quitting. And I hung up. My dad drove 4 hours to come pick me up and help me pack that same day. And then, so that's kind of why I say it was a bad decision. I ended up going there, didn't work out. Coach wasn't who he was when I was recruiting. So I was kind of mad at him, right? Like, one of his rules was no earrings, right? If he saw you at Walmart during an off day with earrings in your ear, we'd drive back together and he'd make us run. Like, just strict rules like that. So I kind of came back home and just mad at him. And for some reason, my thought process of getting back was I'm just to go get my ears pierced. So I got him pierced. This is like a rebellion for some reason, but kind of just mad for a few weeks about how he reacted to it. And then I'm scrolling through Twitter about a month later, and I see this little notification from Frontier Community College saying our head coach had quit to take another job. So after he ripped me to pieces within a month, he did exactly what I did. And that's kind of when I started to feel better about it. I still have, no, he was in the Air Force. Yeah, he was probably out of the Air Force for probably several years at that point, but he still had that mindset in him where he just wanted to put us through his little own mini boot camp. And I wasn't ready for it. I don't know. No, yeah, he quit to take a different job like a month and a half into the school year. So I believe he was the first coach at that school. At the time I went there, we were about 4 years in as a program, winning less than 10 games a year. It was like 10 and 30. And he had kind of gotten them to about a 500 school by the time I got there. So like he's having success in the program. Outside of that, I'm not super sure where his thing is. But I think the reason he snapped on me and even said it on the phone, he was like, "We gave you a full ride. We were really counting on you." And I think he was just kind of mad that like, which at that part I understand. I came in, take a scholarship from someone, and then just kind of leave. So yeah, but you know what? It was during COVID. Yeah, I just didn't have the mental. Yeah, yeah, and it's not like I quit and just went somewhere. Like I quit with the full mindset that I was never going to play again. Came home, I got a job at Menards, and that was literally it. After like 8 months of there, I was kind of when I realized, like, all right, I'm not ready to just work, and that's kind of when I started to work out on my own a little bit. Yeah, I mean, those, yeah, yeah, no, everyone's replaceable. Like I said earlier, they really don't care. That's kind of funny that you say that because college coaches is if you go through recruiting, you'll see some weird recruiting tactics. Like you said, that guy just saw you first and gave you the spot. But like it's kind of similar. I was standing. This was kind of that summer after I had hurt my elbow, and I wasn't playing that game. I was just on the field, catching for my coach who's hitting IO. And the day later, I get a coach on the phone. He calls me, and his first words are, "I didn't see you play. I just saw you standing on the field before the game, and you were tall, so I got your number from your coach. He offered me to come on a visit just by looking at me." So it's kind of weird how sometimes, yeah, yeah, the eye test is a real thing in men's league. I can't wait to get into men's league baseball. I'll be there. I got one more year. Yeah, I got one more year. I'm over the process of being a baseball player. It's a lot that goes into it, and I'm ready to just yeah, merely kind of do my own lifts, get bigger. Like I lift a lot. If you looked at me, you can't tell. I lift to be a pitcher. Right? That's what my trainer at school always says. I play baseball, not weights. So the eye test, I don't look like I lift, but I promise I do. So I can't wait to actually be done and try to get a little bit bigger. Yeah, especially I mean at Schaumburg, we didn't lift, right? Seeley and whoever the coach was, we didn't lift in Schaumburg. So that's another reason. Like I did not touch weight rooms in high school, which obviously I regret now. There's always the what if, like what if I was that guy in the weight room as a freshman, where I've been now. But once I got to my JUCO, obviously you heard that, just running almost like a boot camp style of strength and conditioning. And then I got to Benedictine, and that was just a more standard. You lift 4 times a week. You show up. The weight guy had a lift on the board for us, which is just basic like basic baseball lifts, like deadlifts, a lot of explosive work, jumping, like lunges, all that stuff. And now I got to Westcliff, and Westcliff is the main reason that brought me there outside of it being in Southern California was the fact that we are open to do whatever lifts we want. And I know you know him, Nick, because you went there, but I work out with a guy named Bill Miller, who I think is probably the best trainer in Illinois for sure. Maybe he knows. You got Bill to come on. That's awesome. Yeah, Bill is that'll be a good podcast. He knows his stuff, and I went with Bill. My first day on the mound, I hit 79. 2 months later, I was up to 86 with Bill. So, he's, yeah, like if you buy into Bill Miller training, you are going to see results. And Westcliff let me do my own training, so I do Bill stuff all year long now. When I'm healthy, like when I'm hurt this year, I got a little banged up a little bit this year, but they let me do Bill's training, which is all explosive work, sprints, jumps. Even when you're doing lifts, you got speed sensors on them, moving the weight as fast as you can. The Proteus machine, med balls, like it's fun lifting. It's explosive, it's fast, but you're also getting stronger at the same time, which works for pitchers and hitters. All his hitters have crazy exit velocities. All his pitchers have crazy pull downs. So that's been the biggest thing for me at Westcliff is having that ability to do the stuff that I know that works for me versus rather going and having one lift for 50 guys who not everyone needs the same type of lift. So that was the biggest thing I was looking for was somewhere where I could go do the things where I knew I needed to do in order to get better and not have to do the same thing as my 50 other teammates. Uh, I saw Albert. I'm sure you remember Albert. Albert goes there, and Stags, Joe Stagowski. A lot of Schaumburg kids in there. So I would just kind of see Joe reposting Bill's stuff, and that was another thing. After my 1 year at Benedictine, I tore my labrum while I was there. So after that, I still trained all summer, fully planning on going back. But a week before I was supposed to move in, I hopped on a mountain. And I was from 73. So at that point, like Benedictine's expensive, right? All those D3s, they don't give out scholarships. They're very expensive. So I called the coach and I was like, listen, I'm sorry. Like, I worked all summer, but my arm's just not good. And again, second time now where I was like, all right, my arm's just done. I can't play anymore. That's kind of when I got into coaching. And one day at practice with my kids, I decided to hop on a mound. And that's when I was up to like 79 after not throwing for months. So I hit 79, and that's like the next day I emailed Bill and I was like, all right, I still have this. I need to get out of Illinois. I had a trip that freshman year where I went to Miami during the winter, and just being there in the winter when it's 80 degrees and it was negative 20 here, that was like the mind opening day where like I can't stay in Illinois. Like I need it opened my eyes. That Miami trip, even though it was my freshman year, that trip is the reason why I got back into it and tried to get out of Illinois. Because you realize just like being in the cold sucks, man. And I had an opportunity to go out to Southern California. We're playing baseball in January. It was awesome, dude. So I give Bill pretty much all the credit to me being out in California right now. He's an awesome trainer, awesome guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially as a pitcher too, man. The injury risk in cold temperatures is a lot higher for pitchers. So that's one way I would look at that, which I would probably agree with because I don't know, just you're the dude going to Arkansas, right? You don't want to get hurt. So that part I do definitely understand, and I don't blame him. I going into recruiting process of last year, I did not email one school in Illinois. I had some reach out to me, didn't respond. I was only talking to the Florida, Arizona, California, like all those South schools. I refuse to throw another pitch in the cold. Yeah, well, he's a year older than me, and like you said, he didn't play the year that we would have been teammates on varsity. So honestly, not really a guy I ever had a relationship with. Didn't really ever talk to him, but I think it was definitely kind of something to look up to, like seeing somebody in your hometown doing what you would like to do. So yeah, not that we ever really talked, but just kind of seeing him go about it was definitely something I could use and set as a goal of mine. Yeah. Yeah, I wish I would have gotten to play a year with him. I was looking forward to it just to hopefully learn from him a little bit, and but obviously he made a good decision for himself, which was probably to sit out that year. So I don't blame him at all. Yeah, it's very stressful because, like you said, right, you might have your dream school and you send them out an email and you never hear anything back. So that's kind of like the mental part of the recruiting process can bring you up and down, right? You get that big response back from the school you want, or they don't respond. It's hard. The kids I coach 8U to 18U, so I talk to all the kids, all ages. Honestly, what I've been telling them right now is that JUCO is the way to go, unless they're like really education driven, just want to get a degree and maybe play just to kill time throughout school. Maybe then that's when you'd go D3 or not. But if they are serious and want to play baseball, I tell them to go JUCO because COVID is terrible right now. There's, like I said, 25, 26 year olds in college sports. But what I tell them, honestly, like when I was in high school, I've probably sent out 1,000 emails, right? I was emailing Vanderbilt and LSU, never getting responses, but I sent out an email to every school that I thought would be kind of cool and fun to go to because you never know. One school might be looking for that 6'2", 180-pound center fielder who can track down fly balls. You just never know what they're looking for. It is very hard though, because like I said, you don't always see the real side of the school you're committing to. But my advice to everyone is to like reach out to as many schools as you can. Have an NCSA profile because that will give you kind of like a basic feedback on the school, like where they're at, how many kids they are, the division, tuition. But it is hard. I would honestly, it's cliche, but I tell them to trust the process, trust that the right school is going to show up and come make their move on you, and go somewhere where you know you're wanted. Right? I had a couple preferred walk-ons this year, but those aren't the schools that want you, man. Go after the school that is calling you and texting you, reaching out, seeing how you are, asking you personal questions outside of just, oh, how hard you throw, what are you doing today, like are you lifting, are you throwing strikes, just schools that get to know you outside of the baseball field. Those are the guys you want to go after, and that's kind of what I did. As soon as I got in contact with Westcliff, the pitching coach texted me and instantly like, oh, do you like to go fishing, just getting to know me on a more personal level. And I got to school and it was the same way. I have very, very good relationships with my coaches at my school now. So that's definitely a big thing, is connecting with the coaches on a personal level. Yeah. Yeah. I got definitely lucky at Westcliff, right? I have a cool coaching staff. My head coach is Dylan Hoffman. His brother Drake is an assistant, Drake Hoffman. Their uncle is Trevor Hoffman, which obviously all the baseball guys know Trevor Hoffman. And their dad is Glenn Hoffman. Glenn played 10 years in the MLB, managed the Dodgers for a year, and he's kind of like a part-time assistant coach. So I'm working with Drake Hoffman, or mostly Dylan. Drake's with the outfielders, but all these dudes who are in the MLB, even Dylan was a minor league guy for a year. So it's kind of cool to just see like Dylan learned from Trevor, passed it down to Dylan, and now we're doing a lot of the same stuff that Trevor Hoffman did throughout his career. So I definitely got lucky with my coaching staff at Westcliff. It's pretty cool to be around them. We run every single day. I asked my coach. I asked Dylan first, not first day, but pretty early in the year. I was like, "Is there a reason we're running this much?" Because if I'm going to do something that sucks, I want to know like why I'm doing it. How is it benefiting? And honestly, his answer was, "Well, my uncle did it, so you guys do it." How do you argue with that? Right? Your uncle's Trevor Hoffman. You can't argue with it. We definitely, speaking of boot camp, it's worse at Westcliff than it was in my JUCO. We start the year with 2 weeks of beach workouts. We're at Huntington Beach. In past years, they've brought out a former Navy SEAL to come in and run them. Last year they didn't, but it is legitimately last year it was the worst 2 weeks of my life. All right, we're running in the sand, pretty much. Yeah, we're running in the sand. We're doing army crawls along the tide, getting taken out by freezing cold waves, like relay races, just all this stuff in the sand. And it is, any direction you look, there's teammates puking, and it sucks. But at the same time, this is the first time you're meeting all your teammates, and it's on the sand, and it's that team bonding. Like you don't want the guy to your left and to your right to just suffer by themselves. So We push each other. It sucks. At the end, though, we're all really close, and we have a big party at the end of the time. So it's definitely this will be early September for us this year. It's freezing. Yeah, and he already said we're going to be in the water a lot more this year because I don't know why, but and like yeah, JUCO me like honestly, the part of the running is another thing that played into me quitting. I was like, I'm not going to be hurt and show up and do this running. I was very lazy, which is the same in high school. I didn't want to lift. Like, it was just lazy. But you go to these beach workouts and you can't be lazy. So as much as they suck, I enjoy them because it bonds me with my teammates. But at the same time, it's building that mental strength that I've struggled with in the year, and I actually have to push myself and not just kind of quit and crumble up into a ball. There's no choice but to run in the sand. Like you have to do it. Yeah, and the worst part, honestly, is that the warm up jog it's three lifeguard towers down is how far he makes us run. I would say down and back, three lifeguard towers is probably a quarter mile in the sand, and it's the hardest part of the day. And then the other thing that sucks is obviously people see 60 dudes running around in the sand, and all these people want to come up and be like, "Oh, what are you guys doing? What is this for?" And in the meantime, you're like on one knee throwing up in the sand, and people come up and ask us what we're doing, and then they find out we're just a little NAI baseball team. They just walk away. Well, kids are puking everywhere. Every garbage can on the beach has puke in it. It's gross, but it's kind of fun at the same time if you make it fun. Yeah, this will be my second year at Westcliff. I went in raw last year. Didn't puke. I managed to not puke in 2 weeks, but obviously we run 5 days a week at school. I got home from summer in the best shape of my life. Haven't really ran all summer. So I think I'm going to actually try to start going on little runs and just try to at least prepare myself the best I can. Because no matter what you do, they're going to suck. But there's definitely ways that I can hopefully make it a little easier for myself this year than it was last year. Cold, oh my God, I've tried. I know you're into him. I've heard you talk about him on here, but that is just, I don't know. I don't know. I've definitely became mentally stronger to push myself, but that is one barrier that I have not been able to capture. The cold plunge, yeah, I can't. Mm. Yeah, and I've never done a true plunge, but I've done the same. I'll shower and at the end just put it on ice cold, and I stop breathing. Like I can't breathe. Yeah, start like hyperventilating. So I know the only way I think, which I'm sure is maybe what you had to do, Nick, is just kind of start at warm water and just work your way down a little couple degrees every day. But I'm definitely that Lake Michigan plunge would be the death of me, I think. Yeah, I'm very big on. I tell the kids I coach to do one thing that sucks every day, whether that be running or hopping in a like just something, just to build that mental strength because it's so hard. It's the hardest thing to build is like discipline and that mental strength to go out and do something that you know is going to be terrible and that you're going to hate. So I think if you, which you have been able to done, which is cool, is just commit to it and stick with it. It's definitely worth it. But I'm the cold plunge is something I never. I don't know if I'll ever get there. You do feel good after. I'll say that. The feeling after those very few cold showers that I attempted, you do feel really good afterwards. So that I'll agree with. Yeah, I choose to make one sucky thing every day something else than that. That's not the one thing I try to do every day. Today, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do anything yet. I missed. Yeah, no, just if I can't do something that sucks, I'll do something that's gross to make up. Yeah, I'm usually at Bills. I try to get there at least 4 days a week, and that'll be my thing that sucks because it's a 45-minute drive to get there. So going to Bills. What's up? No, he's in Willowbrook now. Yeah, I'm home for the summer. I would love to be back at school right now. I'm very bored in Illinois. It's he's in Willow. Yeah, I like Bill a lot. He'll be a good podcast on here for sure. He's fun to talk to, and he's a kid inside too. That's what makes it fun to train with him. He's like, yeah, he's fun. I like going to him has definitely been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Yeah. So this summer I coach a 14U team, but during the winter when it's just off-season training, I'll work with every single kid in the program. They come in groups with their position. So how we do it, the 8U guys are practicing with the 18U guys. All the or no, maybe not 8. I think it's like 13 to 18 in their positional groups will all go together. So kind of then mostly on the pitching days I go in and help, but on hitting days I'll go flip BP. But yeah, I work with just about and I run pitching camps when I'm home for winter. So that'll be kids like 6 years old as well. So it's a very big range. And I know I had not my availability this week was terrible because it's tryout week. So I've been over at Triton all week working tryouts for the kids coming in. Me either. Yeah, and it's yeah, the practices are very efficient because they all come in and they do the same exact thing. All the outfielders are together, all the pitchers, corner infielders, middle infielders, catchers, they're all together. And they'll practice 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah, I think that's the best part is we all their coaches either at least played college. A lot of them played professional, so they learn from the coaches. The young guys, they're learning from the 18U kids as well. So it's and it just kind of builds a family within because we have probably 40. It's a huge program, probably 40 teams, and a lot of these kids know everybody in there. So it's cool. It was at when I was at Benedictine. Actually, I kind of knew some of my teammates had their own teams, and I thought that just looked so fun. So one of my coaches had his name's Bobby Stevens. He runs Windy City Baseball Club out in the Rosemont Dome, is where we're based out of, right by O'Hare. So he gave me Bobby's number, and I was like, "Hey, this is kind of like my little baseball resume, how long I've been playing for." And his response was, "Cool, you got 15 blue," and he gave me a team like right away. It was not hard to get into. I've got yeah, he has so many teams. They need coaches, and I like to think that I've became one of the better, not better, but one of the good coaches there. I have good relationships with the kids to the point where I can tell them you suck, but at the same time I could kind of rip on them and tear them apart, but at the same time they still text me all their stupid memes and get excited when they see me every day. But at the same time, I'm going to tell them exactly what I'm thinking. If they suck, if they're doing good, I tell them. So it's fun to build that relationship with them. It's kind of like almost a big brother to the point where you can say exactly what you need to say. And most of the parents like it. Like they'll hear me yelling at their kids, telling them they suck. It's never in like a yeah, it's never in a bad way. Like if a kid makes an error, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, you suck," but like I don't even know. You got to put it in situations where it's allowed, where you not just blatantly like telling them they're the worst player ever. But I've told kids nobody likes them. I've told them they suck, but I've built relationships with them to the point where they hear that stuff come from me. They know if I'm getting on them, it's for a reason. I don't just rip them for the fun of it. So they listen to the feedback I give them, and they usually come back and fix it the next day or even in the same game if they get it from me. And it is fun. I'll say you got to have the right parents are the things that can ruin it. As weird as that sounds, because we played a game last Tuesday, and these kids were playing. We're just I've never heard so much shit talking in a college baseball game. And these are 14-year-olds on their team, like in my kids' ears all game, like like blatant disrespect, not like just little, no, not like chants and chirps, like calling us like pussy, like actually like just screaming at us. Umpires fed up, screaming at them, and my guys, they kept their mouth shut the entire game. I feel like I've kind of coached them to be baseball players versus just being little dicks on a baseball field. So they kept their mouth shut the whole game. The parents started to get into it a little bit. I had parents, some of my parents started talking to the other team. And even then, I turned around and I yelled at every parent sitting in my family section. So like I have that relationship where they know that I know what it takes. I tell them all the time. My goal is to turn them into better players, but also teach them how to be a baseball player and not just be a little dick on the field and what to do, how to act, what to say, how to do the little things off the field that just make you look good so they're ready when they get to high school next year. So even with the parents, it's the same thing. I have to kind of work with the parents too so they know how to be a parent that their high school coach is going to hate. Because I'm sure, like, you get that one parent who's constantly in the dugout trying to coach their kid and screaming at other teams. Like, the coach isn't going to like him. And I tell them the biggest difference is this: they're 14 now. This is the last year they're ever going to get to show up and just play. I have to play them all. They get to high school and their coach gets paid to win. So their best nine is playing every day. So I have a C team, and I even tell them, like, you guys are competing with the kids on the A team next year. So you need to be ready to, like, how to act. Your coach needs to like you just as much as you need to be a good player. So I'm kind of trying to teach them how to be a likable person as well as a good player. Oh my gosh, all the any TikTok trend you can think of, those kids are That's all they talk about. I think there's what's brain rot. They're all brain rotting. Yep, every Scooby Toilet, Riz, Sigma. Yeah, yeah. And they're weird, dude. They're 14 years. They're not like 14-year-olds when we were 14. Like we played Minecraft, and they're weird kids. But yeah, yeah. And that's my biggest challenge is sometimes they do say stuff that is really funny, but it's really messed up. So I have to kind of hold in my laugh and be a mentor for a little bit and kind of tell them to shut up. And but that's hard for me because sometimes they're genuinely the funniest kids ever, and they make me laugh a lot. Yeah, I think the fact that I play and I still play is I think it's cool to them because when I was 14 and even as like a freshman in high school, like the varsity kids were cool in my eyes. Like they were ahead of me, they were where I wanted to be, so I just looked up to them. So I think me kind of having that experience is what makes them listen to me more because it's harder to relate to the 45-year-old dad who maybe played in high school 30 years ago when that's the coach. But I'm a paid coach. Anyone above 13 years old in our program has a paid coach who at least played college baseball. So I think honestly, they just look up to me. And for me personally, it's taught me way more about the game. I've learned rules that I didn't know as a player. And even just trying to be a good pitching coach, I've learned how to pitch better. I finally, like, for the first time, did research on pitching mechanics and movements and grips and really became more of a student of the game once I got into coaching so I could pass on. Because I coach with guys who have played pro baseball, and it's scary. I don't want to go in and tell the kids something that's not right when the guy who pitched for the White Sox is right next to me, and then he's going to be like, "No, that's not right," and then I look stupid. So yeah, I would say that's been the biggest thing for me is really becoming a student of the game more than just a player. Yeah, yeah. It's very rewarding too. I give both sides. I give private pitching lessons, so it's fun to see the kids who come and work with me every week one on one. To see them, they're not all on my team. I give lessons to kids on other teams. It's fun to follow them and just kind of see that what I'm teaching and feeding them with knowledge is actually translating onto the mound when they get there. But even with my team itself, my first day, I missed the first 2 weeks of this summer because I was still in California. So they had a coach subbing for me, and they went 1-7 with that coach. I came in on my birthday. It was my first day with that team. It was a practice. I showed up middle of my birthday, kind of ate my whole day. Me and my assistant are there watching the coach run one more practice. So we can just kind of watch. And we looked at each other and we were like, all right, we're just going to try to make it fun because this is the worst baseball team I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure I'm sure some of them are going to watch this podcast and make fun of me, and there's going to be pictures of me in our team group chat after this. But I coached them first game we win. We're 2-7. I was like, all right, maybe I'm the missing key. We get slaughtered the next 4 games in 4 innings, like 15, by 15 runs, 4 games in a row. So we get to a point where we're like 7-18 on the summer, 7-17, and all of a sudden we go on this win streak. So we're right now we're 15-18, 10-1 in our last 11 games. So just kind of seeing that turnaround, and the parents come up to me and they thank me for turning around their boys' season because I got there and one of the moms actually came up to me. I saw her at a gas station. She just kind of asked me like, "What are you gonna do?" Because I don't want my son to get discouraged. And I was like, kind of just came up with a BS answer on the spot because in my head I was like, "There's nothing I can do. Like this team is fun. I'm just gonna try to let them have fun." But then all of a sudden they learned how to hit, and they're I don't know, we're like the best team ever. Scoring like 15 runs a game. My catcher went on a 23 for 23 hit streak. It's been absurd the way we've been playing. And tomorrow, if we win our game tomorrow against that same shit talking team that we played last week, we'll be the one seed in our league. So yeah, they're over 500 since I took over, which has been awesome. And the parents have been thankful, and just kind of seeing those results and seeing the kids' attitude change when they show up every day is fun because they show up day one and they know they knew they're like, oh, we're the C team, we're terrible, like, but now it's like they show up and they're ready to go. They know that they're going to win every game as long as they don't get too cocky. And that's been the biggest thing the last couple of weeks is stay confident, not cocky. Because we played a team in Indiana 2 weeks ago, and they were 0 and 18 on the summer, and we're on a 9 game win streak, and we lost like 4-3. Gave a team their first win of the summer, and I snapped on them after the game, and then they came back and beat the one seed in our league in that crazy game. No, yeah, and I'll never claim to be a coach sent from God to these kids. Like I, it's them. Like I told them, I will care about this team just as much as they do. So, like I said, day one they didn't care. I really was like, all right, whatever. Like I'll just kind of get this paycheck, make it fun for them, and move on with my life. But then they started to win, and they started to buy in, and now I'm bought in as well. So I let them take the lead on it, and I just kind of sit back and try to lead them in the right direction. But even high school, like yeah, our senior year, my sophomore year, your senior year, like we had the talent, right? Like you, Jack, Shof, we were a good team, but yeah, no one really cared, and that was the year. It ended up being the most fun year ever for me, but at the same time, I was like, that day in the locker room where they tell you what team you're going to be on. I was just praying to be on JV. I did not want to be on varsity because all my friends are on JV. So head coach goes, all right, like all the varsity guys or all the JV guys come over here, grab your jerseys. And I start walking and he like put his hand out and stopped me from moving. And I was like, oh my God, dude, no. Like I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any of you guys on varsity. So I came in and Albert ended up making it, which helped. But it was really like you and Shof and Sam who just like took me in as the only kid on the team without his license and were driving me places and made it actually like the most fun baseball year of my life. And I still have videos. I have a video of you dancing in that little hallway while we wait for the ball. I'm sure it's buried in my photo gallery somewhere. Yeah, yeah. Sophomore year honestly saved me because freshman year was just Lobo was our coach and he put us through the ringer. Like we were running stairs, doing those insanity workouts on monitors, like just ripping us to shreds. Like we play knockout instead of knockout, he would just line us up against the wall in the aux gym and hit balls at us as hard as he could with his fungo. And if you flinched, you were out. So he was very hard on us, like made kids cry. And I'm pretty sure that summer, so many complaints, a lot of kids quit. He was told to kind of simmer down a little bit. So after my year, he really calmed down, and the kids below me had a soft coach. But that year, I was like, this sucks. Like if this is high school baseball, this is terrible. But then I came into varsity, and I had a whole new group of big brothers there that kind of just took me in as the little 16-year-old who wanted to come take spots, and that's honestly what made the year fun for me, even though we were not very good. I've heard that saying, never heard what it is or anything. I would say yes and no. I trust that there's a path written out for me, and even if I didn't know which direction it was going in, I always ended up where I felt like I was supposed to be. And if it wasn't the right spot, then I trusted that I would find the right spot. So I'm there now, and I know if I didn't hurt my elbow, probably was that 6 years ago now, I probably wouldn't be living in California having the most fun I've ever had in my life. So on that part, yes, but at the other time, it was kind of like professional baseball was kind of a little bit of a thought in my brain in high school when I was starting to throw harder than everybody else, and I was bigger than everyone else, and I had more pitches that I could throw than everybody else. So even I was like playing for the Boomers or something, just independently pro ball was definitely a thought. As I've gone on and kind of matured and learned about other things that I like, I would definitely kind of say after this last year of baseball, I'll be ready to move on. And I definitely haven't made it my entire life like it was in high school. That was not that I did much because I didn't lift or practice on my own, but when I did do anything, it was usually baseball, and that was all I cared about. So I would say the injury is blessing and curse. Absolutely, yeah. I don't regret anything. You know what I mean? Like being at Westcliff, I have even at my first two schools, right? Everyone always says, "Oh, in college, that's when you're going to meet all the people that are going to be at your wedding." I went to two schools and not a single person from either school. One person in two schools that I would invite to my wedding. And now I'm at the school where I like all my teammates. I get along with everyone, which wasn't the case at other schools because I'm not like just the normal partying, crazy drinking college kid. Like I'm an introvert. I like to stay in. I play games with my friends, but I will go out. So at some schools, that isn't the key to making friends is not wanting to drink and party. So I didn't have a ton of friends at my first school, but at my school now, and honestly, I credit it to the beach workouts. Right, they bring us all together, and I have so many friends and guys I would consider brothers now because of probably those injuries redirecting my path years ago. Yeah, I think there's stuff to it that'll help you outside of sports as well. Like even just building relationships, having connections, like Sam was talking a lot about. In my 2 years at Westcliff, I'm going to have over 100 teammates. And, just one of those people might be the guy who's running the business I want to work at someday. Or maybe I'm running a business that they want to work at. So definitely just building connections, gaining like knowledge that you don't learn in a classroom, stuff you have to go out and experience, like the hardships of losing 10 games in a row, the hardships of dealing with an injury and having to come back from it. So there's definitely lessons to being an athlete that you can't get anywhere else in life that if you're willing to put in time and work, it's worth going after. Yeah, I have teammates that are older than you. Westcliffe's always recruiting. It's never too late to put the cleats back on. Yeah, no, it definitely took me a little bit longer to understand the process of being a baseball player and eating right, putting weight on, lifting, but I got it not perfectly, obviously, but I'm a lot better at it today than I was in high school. And I think that's why I've kind of had more success later on in my college career than I did at the beginning. Definitely because we practice at Westcliff from 8 a.m. to noon every day, 4 hour practices, 5 days a week. So even in like even in the off season when we're just practicing, I don't really eat breakfast because I can't wake up at 6 a.m., make a meal, and then go run 10 poles or however many it is that day because I'll puke it all up. So I definitely lose weight when I'm at school. My diet gets a little flustered and I'm less concerned about eating great rather than just eating it all. So I kind of just get in any meal I can when I'm at school. Like at home right now, I eat the same breakfast every day. My lunch is meal prepped every day, and then I'll kind of just eat whatever. I'm with my parents, obviously, so whatever they're having for dinner, I'll do that. So there's definitely a lot more that goes into my summers with eating and dieting than there is when I'm at school. At Westcliff, no. At other schools, yes, but like I said, Westcliff's a pretty easy ride. We only have our classes. We're kind of in a quarter system, I would say it's called. So every class meets once a week for 8 weeks for 3 hours. So it's 3 hour classes, which stinks, but you go to each class 8 times and you're done. So you're in classes maybe twice a week and you'll have one assignment due in each and a discussion post. So honestly, unless you have a big paper due that week, it's maybe an hour or two outside of the classroom going into those assignments. So it's pretty easy as long as you put just an hour aside to get it all done. I'm a business major, but I'm kind of just at a point where I just need a degree. I'm planning on coming home next year and going straight into the police academy. So I just need a degree to get into it. I have family in it. My cousin's a deputy sheriff up in Iowa, so I hear a lot about from him when I get to see him, and even just family friends. Like one of my closest family friends, his daughter's a police officer, and or she's a detective now, actually in Washington D.C. And just kind of seeing impacts they can make on the community. I guess I know Jack talked about it when he was talking about how he used to want to be a cop, but like the family friend I have in DC, like she started a program where every cop in Washington D.C. carries a bag of dog food in their car. If they ever see a homeless man with a dog, they have food. for that dog in their car. So just little points of that. Yeah, just kind of seeing how police officers can put the badge on and make impacts and not even just protect, but also serve as well, which I think gets forgotten a lot of times. Is they want to protect, no one serves. So hopefully I can get in and just do the right things and not ruin days all the time and try to hopefully make people's days as well. I'm not definitely not California. I can't afford it. It's too expensive there. Schaumburg is obviously they're paying well. They need cops. So if I could just walk into Schaumburg and get that job, that would probably be the ideal spot to start out. Yeah, I pass basically the minimum required fitness testing that they do. I pass all of them already, which is not very much. If I can remember right, I think it's like a mile and a half run in under maybe 13 minutes. So that's not terrible. I think it's like 50 push ups. Actually, the one thing I don't think I'd be able to pass is the pull ups. I think you only need to be able to do like five. And I've got very long, lanky arms and 230 pounds. So I can't do pull-ups. But I think, I don't know, the fitness testing that you need to just get in, I would definitely pass that initial test. And I'm sure the requirements are probably lower than they used to be because nobody wants to be a cop anymore. So they need people. We were talking to a cop in Schaumburg not that long ago, and he said they used to get 500 people applying for maybe two or three openings, and now they'll get like 100 applicants for like 15 spots. So it's definitely more slim. They kind of cut down, I would guess, to just get people to come and do it, and they're paying more because of it. Yeah, yeah. I think if you get into it for the right reasons, and obviously there's going to be people who judge you just because you're wearing blue and a badge, but if you are in it for the right reasons, I would think that it's and even now, like when I see a cop, I'll go up to him and be like, "Hey, like, do you like your job? Do you enjoy what you do?" I just did it in Chipotle like 2 days ago, and they all say it's awesome. There's tough days, but they all love what they do, and they kind of just ignore the outside noise that's coming in because you're the only person inside that knows if you're doing it for the right reasons or not. And I would say 99% of cops are doing the job for the right reasons. So that makes you feel a little bit better about doing it. I would definitely have to write them down if I was doing this. I'll have to get back on here in a year and a half or whatever it is once I'm actually on the job, and I'll have a whole other side of my life to talk about and training. Yeah. I'm excited. I want to be a canine officer eventually because yeah, just I love dogs. So just to roll around with the dog all day would be pretty cool and bring him home at the end. Most of the time, yeah. Sometimes another cop will have him, but I think if you want him to come home with you, he could be your dog. Yeah. Brown belt's pretty high, isn't it? Yeah. You know, I've definitely put thought into like getting into either jujitsu or boxing once I'm done with baseball, just to like that skill. Yeah, I had a teammate this year at school named Ray Moore Jr. The craziest boxing name ever. Like that is the name of boxing. He was 25 years old, grew up, I believe, in Montana or North Dakota, but he did boxing his whole life. His amateur record was like 55-3 or something as an amateur. And all year, I wanted to get in with him because he had stuff at his apartment, but I never got the chance to. So once I'm done with baseball, that's something I would definitely enjoy doing just for fun, not to actually try to fight, but it just looks fun. No, no, just train with him. I definitely, I know my limits. Yeah, no, I would never. Ray's not a guy you can mess with. Yeah, that's one of the biggest thing. I need someone to do it with, right? I definitely am not the guy who can just walk into a gym by myself. That's way too scary. So I've been waiting for one friend to want to come with. I love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tiring. Yeah, that's what I'm most excited for post college is to just really get in shape and visibly look in shape. Because like right now, like everyone says mass is gas. Like I don't have abs, but I lift 5 times a week most weeks, and you just if you looked at me on the street, you'd have no idea because I trained to be a pitcher. So I can't wait to actually go on a bulk, get big, and just cut it all off and actually be built a little bit. I know, but I know you wrote Jack a program, so within the next year you might be getting a text from me for a program. Yeah, yeah. I bet Jack is he's a psychopath out of there, so I can't imagine what it's like lifting with Jack. And I like that on the podcast you guys even said that like that Jack's a psychopath because that's how I've always thought of him as well. When I was a little sophomore and he was the big scary senior who you can stay away from whenever he would strike out or anything. Yeah, no, Jack, I definitely kept my distance from him when he was struggling. Saw that. I saw his post on Instagram. Jack, you another guy, not a guy I've really talked to like post my sophomore year of high school. He was another guy who just took me in when I was that sophomore with no friends on varsity. Honestly, really, no one on that team was like bad to me. Everyone, I don't think anyone cared enough that I was like coming and trying to steal a spot from guys. No one really cared about their spot. So probably made it easier for people to just take me. Yeah, I always had a different experience with our head coach because for me, like he really liked me, and I got along with him great because maybe he just liked me a little bit more since I was supposed to be the big D1 recruit on the team. So I don't know if maybe I got treated differently, but I always had a great relationship with him, even more so after you left and the new head coach came in. He and I did not always get along the best. So, oh, we got into an argument one day after a game. It was my junior year when I was hurt and only I was like our DH sometimes as a junior. But yeah, we would get into arguments every once in a while. And his key to fixing my elbow that year was running. He thought if I ran, I would have all my problems go away. So his yeah, rebuild my UCL. He spent his text in the group chats would say practice from 4 to 6. Seidner show up at 4:30, and I would get there a half or 3:30, and I would get there a half hour early and just run the indoor track for 30 minutes, and then everyone else would get there, and I'd be dripping sweat, and it was terrible. And that's why we got into arguments because on days I didn't DH, he would send me up into the press box to play walk up music. So it's like, all right, I'm here to be on a team, and first thing he does is separate me from the team. I'm up in the box by myself, and then the game ends, and I come down to be with the team. And once everyone's together, he'd send me to the warning track to go run polls after games. And one time, I literally just like, I don't know if I said something or I just had a visible like attitude with him, but he's like, if you don't want to do it, just go home. And I literally went home, and we got into like just little arguments like that. So that was definitely an experience. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I just thought it was cool to be on varsity with all the seniors and be the underclassman with all my friends being upperclassmen because that's like weird, right? Nobody talks to the sophomores and freshmen when they're seniors. Like I didn't, but getting to be a sophomore up with all the older guys who are committed to colleges, I just thought it was so cool and I had so much fun. Yeah, honestly, I was playing. I was like our. I started off as a number three guy in our rotation. I earned the number two spot, so I was getting those Wednesday starts against conference teams. So I had fun that year. Even though I graduated high school with 0 wins on varsity as a pitcher, I went 0-4 as a sophomore and 0-0 the rest of my 2 years. Yeah, honestly, if your elbow's not hurting today, it was probably worth it 4 years ago, or way longer than 4 years ago. Because I remember as a freshman, I we had coding class together when I was a freshman, you were a junior, and that's how I met you. We sat like 2 seats away, and Tommy, you were in the classroom right next door. I remember this because that was my first time meeting you. You ran into our classroom dressed as Santa Claus. Yeah. That was my first time meeting you. So that was honestly, that's how I met you. Yeah, yeah. That's how I met both of you guys in that coding class. Oh, you know what traumatized me about that class? The dude behind me, and what do you use a fret? 14. This dude shows me a video of a puppy sitting next to a huge snake, and I was like, I'm not watching that. And he's like, No, no, nothing happens, nothing happens. So of course, this senior talks me into watching this video, and the snake just devours a little like golden retriever puppy, and it just scared me. I could not do it. I was so mad, but I was just a little freshman, so I just traumatized. I cheated on my project. Yeah, because I remember your final project was you had to make a game, and he was yeah he was. I remember your game, Nick, too. It was a shooter game. I don't know how I remembered that on the spot, but my game was literally like I got it off of YouTube. He was like, I'm gonna check all your games and make sure you guys didn't YouTube or Google them. But I did it anyways and just changed it a little bit. And I literally just had to put a mouse through a maze, and if you hit the wall, it like reset you. That was my whole game, and I got an A on it, even though I YouTube the entire thing. Dude, that class was fun. Coding was so fun, but it was so hard. Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad I kind of realized that in high school because I took all the mandatory classes as a freshman and sophomore. So that my junior and senior year, my senior especially, I had first through fourth period of class, and then fifth period was GBA basketball. Sixth was lunch, and I had seventh and eighth off. So after I was out at noon every day my senior year because instead of taking electives that I absolutely hated, I just took off periods. And I also remember GBA. Seneca always compared me to you as like my senior year, especially like who was like player to come through the GBA, and he was like it was because I remember as sophomore I would walk the track, and you guys would be playing GBA basketball, and you were always like you were the best player in that class, and then Seneca like would compare us to each other as when I was a senior. Yeah, I remember so fun. Yeah, I had a junior year with the Conroy brothers. I think that's their last name, and they would just fights. They would get into fights like every day, and it was so fun. But that class, like, actually was so intense. Like people, me including, like took those basketball games seriously. Yeah, I never did, but maybe it was just because I don't know. One time, some kid did try to fight me, and honestly, like the entire class just like rallied around me in the locker room and like shut the kid up. So it never got anywhere. But I remember that kid was like, "I'll kill you and your whole family over like GBA basketball." I was like, "Oh my god, bro," because I like didn't care, dude. Like I was pulling up half court shots and somehow making a lot of them, and then I would talk a little bit, and kids would just get mad at me. But I had so much fun in that class. I'm just not trying to be sweaty in math class next period. Why I like why I like senior. Yeah, I remember I'd go to Straub's class. I'd junior year, I'd math after, and I would just be dripping sweat onto the desk, and I would like get up and go to the bathroom, just put my face under the dryer and soak myself with paper towels, and I would do it almost every single day. It was so gross. Yeah, my main Instagram is just bsid29, and I have a coaching account too, where you'll see how all my kids are doing. It's sides underscore pitching, mostly on Instagram. I don't use Twitter a bunch, but if you want to see me, I'm at that first one. My all my coaching and my kids stuff is on that pitching account. Thanks for having me, guys.